Have you ever been on a car ride when you drive down the street through town and see a sign that reads Game Store? The storefront window filled with large cardboard cutouts of fantastical characters, heavily armored space marines, and various other accoutrements that scream geek. I bet the majority of you have often wondered what goes on in these strange little shops, usually crammed into an old storefront. Well, you're about to find out.
It's a really good time for board games. There's so many good ones coming out now. Because really all you need is like one pretty basic mechanic, and then you just make a billion things that relate to it.
And now it's probably between miniature gaming, board gaming, role-playing, there's just a billion things out there for people to do.
Gaming was not where it is now. The popularity of Critical Role and a lot of the online streaming shows has definitely skyrocketed RPG and all sorts of different gaming. So there's a lot of stuff on Geek and Sundry and a lot of the other channels of playing board games, teaching people how to play board games. Trading cards were a massive thing. Now they're pretty much dead. There's a niche, really small niche for trading cards, but for the most part, it's trading card games.
Back in, like, say the 80s, when Dungeons & Dragons was the big thing, it was a little shunned. It was kind of it wasn't just nerdy, like, now you say nerdy, you think, Big Bang Theory and things that everybody likes, haha. Back then, it was, you were picked on, you were made fun of, you were mocked a little bit. And so you didn't really come out and talk to other people about it. As things changed, Magic, of course, like I say, Magic changed things quite a bit. It made it so that a place like this, first of all, would be viable.
The only reason a shop can exist is people have to want there to be a place they can gather with other people with similar interests. The gaming helps a lot with that, obviously. You get the Friday Night Magic crowds and things like that. And there definitely is something it's an excuse for people to get out of the house, to actually meet people, which it's easy to run out of these days. Again, you can get everything online. You can sit in your living room and I'll have, this, that, and the other, and there's my groceries in there, and just all well off in your little cell there. And but you lose out on a lot of interaction. You lose out on a lot of. There's definitely a need to have places to gather, and a small shop like this where it's going to be people who are interested in at least vaguely similar things.
And as far as the players are concerned, it's just one more place for them to feel safe and happy. And that's never a bad thing.
We've become a little bit of a hub for a certain part of the community, which is really fun. I love the idea of being a central place that people can sort of feel free to come and let their guard down, have fun, play games, make games, write, create, read, whatever it is.
Well, we're trying to build a community, for one thing. We want to build a gaming community so people have a comfortable place where they can come and play and not feel like it's a highly competitive, pressurized, environment where, but just some place where they can relax and play their games.
The people that are drawn to that are always the sort of more creative and a little out there people, and sometimes those are exactly the same people that really kind of need a sanctuary sometimes.
Miniature gaming has become a huge thing. Back when I was younger, it was kind of super expensive, very difficult to get into. Everybody had giant armies. It was intimidating to paint. Now, I had a buddy show me how to paint the other day because I was always scared of it. It's nothing I wanted to do. They have paints now where you can paint. It makes you feel like a pro, and you're doing it in like 5 minutes. It's amazing. And those games are now like much more financially accessible too. So that's a lot of it. Like, these games are more accessible to people. They're considered more like as it were, where like instead of feeling like you're being pushed away for playing these nerdy things, people are like, oh, I want to do these things. They're really fun. So it brings more people out.
I used to play a lot of box games, the usual stuff like Monopoly and all that stuff.
And every now and then it's good to break out like the really basic stuff. You can skip Monopoly because Monopoly is a wonderful game to play every 25 years and remind yourself why you don't play it more often. Even the people I've known who swear they like playing Monopoly don't once they're playing Monopoly. Like they realize once they're playing it that, oh wait, no. This is like 3 turns and then we just are all miserable. And it's so easy to go broke in real life. I don't know why you'd want to play a game to simulate that. Though I do win more beauty contests in Monopoly.
There's sort of a little collection of current games that are favorites. There's a couple games actually from my childhood that have recently rediscovered that have reminded me why they were my favorites. They're kind of awful by today's standards, but they were a lot of fun for the time period. One of them's actually on the shelf right behind you over there. There's a game called the Sinking of the Titanic, which was a recent yard sale find that made me very excited because I had it when I was a kid, and it's a game where you're trying to get off a ship that's sinking before it sinks. Became a little bit of a collectible item because it was in horribly poor taste. It was an actual disaster where lots of people died, and they turned it into a board game. And they quickly realized that was a horrible idea, so they pulled it from the market and reskinned it as a different game that's not Titanic themed anymore. Maybe like late 70s, early 80s board game called Bermuda Triangle, where they had ships that had little magnets in it as you're trying to work your way around the board delivering goods. There was a storm cloud that also had magnets in it that moves around the board, and if it passes over your ship, it makes them disappear. It was just a super cool little mechanic in an otherwise very straightforward, boring game. But those were the games that I loved when I was a kid. So finding them again and reintroducing them in the store has been a lot of fun.
I think at first we got a lot of people who I would consider old Knights Questers, people that came to my old store when it used to be open. But then we started getting a lot of people. Phyrexian Games was a place that was in Fitchburg, and they closed just a couple months before we opened. It was just coincidental timing. But we wound up getting a lot of those customers coming in and kind of checking the place out. And now you're starting to see a lot of people who maybe aren't into what I call the extremely dedicated games. Like Magic the Gathering, I think you have to be dedicated to play. Warhammer 40K, you have to be dedicated to play. But now we're getting people coming in and playing like Ticket to Ride, Red Dragon Inn, games you can just sit down, open a box, play a game with some people, and then go home. What I call game night games, where you'd go to your friend's house on their game night and play. So we're starting to see a little bit more of those kind of people come in here, where it's a more like, you don't have to clean up after your guests because we take care of that for you, that sort of thing. So it's slowly we're getting more of that sort of clientele as well. And then there's other games like I try to push all the things that I love because they're things that I love, but I have people who come in here with games I've never heard of, I've never seen before. And I'm like, if you love that game, come in here, demo it to people, play it, see if they come in and keep playing. And we've had a few games like that, like Red Dragon, and we didn't have a single thing of those on the shelf. We probably sold 20 copies of the game since our friend Keith came in and just started promoting it. And now that brings in a different kind of clientele because that's not your standard. It's mostly just a board game. Board games have evolved a lot too, and that's a lot of it. It's not Monopoly and Sorry anymore. It's it's Ticket to Ride. It's Catan. Settlers of Catan's a big game. Those sorts of things where people can come in, sit down, play, and then just go. And it's not that tournament competitive heavy environment.
You can play any game you want with anybody in the world on a screen, but there's still something remarkably collegial and sort of old-fashioned and friendly about sitting across a table from somebody and laughing together or cursing at each other or wherever it is that the game takes you.
Just as every other collection of people have their communities, so do gamers, and it's thanks to these stores that we have a place to congregate, gather, and feel safe, and for that, we thank them.